Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between two mighty competitors. On the left hand side we have Wei leading my favourite army, the mighty Lizardmen, up against awesome Andy and his Skaven hordes, who do meet here on the Mortis Wastes. Should be a good fun showdown. Now this is a matchup which is generally considered to be in the favour of the Skaven, and that's because Lizardmen tend to struggle up against factions who can turtle effectively whilst bringing a lot of long range armour piercing damage. Of course the Skaven can bring a lot of tools to deal with the Lizardmen in just absolute droves. So we'll have to see what the Lizardman player has done to try to counter this. Now for the front line, he's gone relatively cheap and cheerful. We have red-crested skinks on the flanks, and then in the central portion, we have an absolute bucket ton of skink cohorts who do have a chevron popped on top of them. But apart from that, these guys not going to be doing too much damage. They will pull their way through Skaven slaves, however, and of course make this build lovely and wide, allowing them to envelop the Skaven forces and try to pressure that back line as much as possible. We even have the cohort of Sotek over on this right hand side. And the main punch of this build though comes in the form of Kroxigor. We have 1, 2, 3 units, and these are going to be the real drive, saturated on top of the skink cohorts, punching their way through that front line and getting down onto the soft underbelly of most Skaven forces. Looks like we have some feral dinosaurs to help out. We have a feral Bastardon on the left and a feral Stegodon on the right hand side, and up in the skies we do have the Colostron Hunters. A relatively risky pick because they are incredibly squishy. Rattling gunners will pull them down, as well as warp block gazelles with very quick efficiency. However, Colostron Hunters do come with some glorious anti-large and will rip apart a Hellpit Abomination, Rat Ogres and other such units very, very quickly. So quite a nice pick there all round. And in the back here we do have one of my favourite units of the game. If you've been a fan of the channel for any length of time, you know I'm a huge fan of the Umbral Tide. Any unit which punches this hard in kind of burst damage and has stalk is very deadly. And of course, they're little fire doggos, how can you not love them? Fire damage is particularly good up against Skaven as well, as a lot of their large creatures don't have much armour but do have regeneration. We also have Lord Mazdamundi leading the force, not on Zlak here, making him a considerable amount cheaper but less tanky, coming in with Ruination of Cities, Banishment, Shield of the Old Ones, Apotheosis, Harmonic Convergence, as well as the Net of Amantok. His Sunburst standard is certainly not to be overlooked either. Now for the force of the Skaven, looks like a relatively defensive force, but over on this left hand side we have a really cool skirmish contingent, and I've seen this be a real popular tactic in recent times. We have some wolf rats with poison, and they're going to be rolling dirty with Throt the Unclean, as well as a Packmaster on their horrific looking brood horrors here. Packmaster of course is anti-large, comes in with that shock collar which is going to be boosting up the stats. We've got Scrying Stone as well as a run in with the pack, and then Throt the Unclean on the other side. Of course going to be coming in with that Beast Pack, the Rat Ogre Summon, as well as Creature Killer and Remolded, as well as Master Controller. So a really deadly curl for sure. Looks like they're going to be popping on top of those red-crested skinks as quick as possible. For the rest of the build, it's pretty much what you expect. We have cheap and very uncheerful units in the front in the form of Skaven Slave Spears, as well as Clarence dotted in a second line, trying to add a bit more meat to this force. And he's gone very heavy with the ranged power. We have triple Poison Wind Globadiers. Now, I've been saying for a long time that these guys are incredibly powerful. In my eyes, one of the most powerful units in the game, but they do have a bit of a weakness, that they're rather squishy and short-ranged, and there's not too much front line to protect them, so certainly going to have to use a lot of decent summons, not only Throt with his Rat Ogres, but it looks like we have a Plague Priest as well, who will be able to summon some troops to help bolster out that front line. We have a Warp Lightning Cannon, as well as some Rat Ogres and Cancelled Guard in this central portion, and then guarding the flanks we have more Skaven Slaves with Spears, so very light on the infantry from both forces, although they both have a decent number of troops, but the quality is a little lacking. Council Guard being the most elite infantry in the field here. Looks like Warp Lightning Cannon is going to go after Lord Mazdamundi, which is a decent target. He's slow, not exactly going to be able to juke many shots, but at the same time he is very thick and tanky, and of course has the option to heal. Looks like the little goon squad of Throt the Unclean and the Packmaster done a little damage to skinks, but then trying to pop on that feral Bastardon before moving away once more. The Lizardmen forces certainly in a rush here to close the ground as quickly as possible. A really lovely summon is going to be coming down in the front line here. Looks like it is a Plague Monk summon who will chew through the skink cohort very quickly and slow down the advance of the Kroxigor, buying time for the Poisoned Wind Globadiers to do some really lovely damage. Lord Mazdamundi is taking a bit of a pound in here, down to lost about a quarter health so far, but not doing it too terribly, as the front line is underway here as Kroxigor swarm in, clubbing these poor rats to doom as the skink cohorts as well saturate on top. But we can see flying through the sky is those Poison Wind Globadiers doing some lovely damage. Kroxigor really struggling in the central portion. We have a Creature Killer going down, and the Hero and Lord Core deleting these Kroxigors, in fact terrifying them away from the field. Poisoned rats, so do need to whip around the flanks, start doing some lovely damage. Over on the right-hand side, we have a bit of a flank overload with the Feral Stegodon and Crocscores, as well as the cohort of Sotek slamming into this right side and now pushing their way into the back onto the Poisoned Winds. It looks like the legendary Throt the Unclean is going to be bounding toward Mansamundi. He has popped a shield of the old ones, but he's also netted down Throt the Unclean, and the Umbral Tide stalking from the shadows, coming with some huge burst damage. Throt, of course, has regeneration and therefore a weakness to fire, and he is getting absolutely deleted here. One net, even with Remolded on, which is going to be healing him with a huge amount and buffing up his leadership, he is out of there. It looks like he's going to be finished off in under 30 seconds. That is some insane value from the Umbral Tide, as well as Lord Mazdamundi. Now, the force of the Skaven going to have to get aggressive here with these Rat Ogres to try and shut down the Umbral Tide where possible. It looks like the Packmaster is, though, getting swarmed here. Colosson Hunters, as well as Crocscores, who have a harmonic convergence on them, doing some massive damage. And the Umbral Tide doing a rather risky shot in, but it looks like all of their shots somehow connect, missing their allies and destroying that Packmaster. So down goes the Skaven leadership very quickly. In the back line, it's a little bit of a mess as well for Skaven. The Count's Guard holding firm, trying to protect the Warp Lightning Cannon. They are being overrun by Crocscore and Feral Stegodons. Units they are going to be very good at and get some good value from, but unfortunately for them, they can't be everywhere at once. Now the cohort of Sotek and Skinks are pushing up onto the Poison Wing Globadiers, trying to shut them down as quickly as possible. In the back lines, it looks like Rat Ogres have been netted as well, just as they are about to catch the Umbral Tide, who have turned in a rather awkward formation. For some reason, Salamanders and Razordons have some really weird pathing. They are going to be doing some lovely burst damage to those Rat Ogres, allowing the Feral Bastiladon Skink cohort, as well as Mazdamundi, to catch up and terrify them away from the battle. And even the Colossal Hunters have emerged as well to help secure this back line position. In the main battle line, Plague Monks are going to be chewing through Skink cohorts very quickly. However, Crocscore are going to be throwing much better Poison Wind Globadiers, up to 77 kills at this point, but taking huge gouts of fiery death to the face. Certainly isn't going to be boosting up their morale, and they are starting to fall back, trying to regain any resemblance of a battle plan, although the Skink cohorts are now going to be coming into the rear, trapping them in their doom. Skaven Slaves as well, not the most elite units to try and hold the line here. Count's Guard probably going to be getting some fantastic value though. They've been dueling these Crocscores for a decent amount of time. Only 14 kills, but we have a little look at their kill count there. 500 damage value isn't too terrible, but a big banishment is going to come down and catching them here, and that's going to be certainly game over for them. Getting absolutely wrecked, and it looks like the force of the Skaven have pretty much broken. Unfortunately for him, he did leave those two Wolf Rats over on the flank, but not a huge omission. They're not crazy value, but still putting pressure on Mazdamundi and the other units in the back, especially the Umbral Tide, could have been huge. But very well played to Way and awesome Andy. An absolute crazy game. And before we hop into the army breakdowns here, hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to give the video a big old thumbs up and subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. We do release content every single day. And if you want to see your replay up on the channel, feel free to join my Discord. There is a link down below in the description, as well as links to how you can support the channel via Patreon, or you can become a member of the YouTube channel. Anyway, awesome stuff for sure. I do actually quite like Awesome Andy's build. I think it was a slightly light on the ground game, considering how many Poison Wing Globadiers he had. I'd probably cut one unit of these bad boys and add in another Rat Ogre, try and save a little bit of money somewhere else, because they're really good at counter-initiating the enemy and plugging those gaps. Now, the Poison Wind Globadiers did some pretty decent work, all of them paying for themselves, despite the fact that they did get swarmed very early on. And it looks like some of them actually gaining chevrons as well, doing over 1,000 damage value, which is nice work by them. The Warp Lightning Cannon did a decent job as well. It did huge burst damage to Mazdamundi, but it never finished him off, and that is the problem with targeting such, big, kind of thick lords. If you don't kill them, it's not really worth it, because Mazdamundi doesn't need his health. He's just there to cast spells. He can be on death's bed with a couple of HP. As long as he's holding the ground and casting spells, he is going to be getting his value and being very happy. Of course, a bit of a miss micro of the Wolf Rats with poison. I do like the idea of rolling them with the Throt the Unclean and Packmaster, who struggled a little bit here due to the Umbral Tide. Really good play from Way. And I think using these guys to pressure the Umbral Tide perhaps could have saved the day for Skaven, but at the same time, their backline was getting swarmed by this huge Skink cohort battle line. And these guys aren't here to get crazy value. You can see they're doing decent damage dealt, just chewing their way through slaves and other such units. But the real MVPs, the Umbral Tide, 3,700 damage value, assassinating 2 characters, as well as doing huge burst damage to Rat Ogres and helping finish off a few of those units in the late game. The Colossal Hunters pretty much full health at the end, still managed to get decent value, and really nice protection units as well to help support the Umbral Tide in case Wolf Rats, Throt, or other units do try to pressure him and come in and take these Salamanders out of the game. Krotskor's doing a decent job as well, just being the hammer to punch through the Skaven force. And Mazdamundi, of course, isn't going to get much damage dealt or damage value, but it really was the power of his nets here which allowed them Lizardmen to triumph in the name of the Old Ones. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.